Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary O'Connor, and I'm with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. And I also manage the Aviation Safety Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health here in Anchorage. This evening, we are happy to have Jennie Sandland on our show. Jennie is an air traffic controller with the Anchorage Air Route Traffic Control Center, also known as CENTER. She is also part of the Alaska Region Safety Outreach Team. Jennie, welcome to Hangar Flying.
Hi.
A mid-air collision north of Anchorage recently shook the flying community. There's been a lot of work done with the frequencies that pilots use to talk to each other in the Mat-Su Valley, and they've worked to try and make communications between pilots a lot clearer. So, in addition to following these frequency guidelines, are there some things that pilots can do to add a level of safety in their communications?
The message that we would like to get out is the role that ATC can assist in. And I don't think it's very well known out in the valley just how good our radar reception is and the services that we can provide out there. We have very good radar in the valley. Anchorage Approach Control can see airplanes out there in the Wasilla area, Big Lake, almost to the surface, down to about 200 feet.
Oh, wow.
A little bit higher out in Palmer, but not much. As they get out in the mountain areas real close to those hills, it gets a little difficult. But radar is very, very good out in the Wasilla area. So that is definitely a role that we could play is to provide flight following out in the valley.
So what would a pilot need to do to get this kind of help with air traffic controllers?
Well, simply once the pilot goes airborne out in the valley, they can contact approach control on frequency 19.1 up to the north. They're also able to provide radar flight following to the south of Anchorage on 26.4, but out in the valley it's 19.1, and they can simply go airborne and contact approach control and let them know that they're requesting flight following services. The typical, who are you, call sign and your location and the request for flight service, flight following to the destination.
And what if they're not actually going to a destination? Say they're going to do some sightseeing or just fly around, maybe do some practice maneuvers.
That works as well. That's a little more difficult, but they can just in plain language speak that to the approach controller that they're talking to and describe, where they're going to be maneuvering and at what altitude.
A lot of pilots are hesitant to talk to air traffic controllers. A lot of them think that they're bothering air traffic control or that you have something else that's more important that you should be doing. Is this the case?
I believe that's true. I believe that's a true perception, but that is exactly what we're there for. That's our job, is to work these pilots, the flying public, and it doesn't say that we only work IFR traffic. We also work VFR traffic, and so yes, that's a perception that we need to get over.
Would it ever be possible that you're too busy to provide those services to pilots?
There is that possibility, depending on the staffing. If staffing for some reason is short for that day, there could be a difficulty in splitting sectors, but it doesn't happen that much. Now, as we get into summer and traffic gets a little busier, there could be those occasions where the controller, it is an additional service that they provide, so there's a possibility that they might be too busy. However, I would wait, and pilots can tell when the controllers are really busy. Things start to slow down, they can put that request back in again. Or if they're flying outside of approach control's airspace and then into Anchorage Center's airspace, they'll have a new controller out there too, and they can just contact Anchorage Center on 2555 and request with that controller to pick up flight following.
And if they weren't sure about where that area might be where they would transition over, would that be something that approach would hand them over and tell them what frequency they should turn to?
So if they are working with approach control, yes. Approach control can hand them over. If they were not working with approach control previously, then they would just get that off their sectional charts. They would know where those boundaries are.
And would a pilot have to have a Mode C transponder in their aircraft?
that is another perception that is out there right now, that you hear a lot of pilots, my husband included, was he had no idea that not being transponder equipped, that he could get flight following out there. We have primary radar out in the valley. Like I said, very good radar. The target looks a little different, but no, you do not have to have a transponder. You do not have to have mode C in order to get flight following. Helpful, yes. Required, no.
Okay, well that's some very helpful information, especially for pilots that might be new, they might not be comfortable talking on the radio, or they just might not be familiar with procedures around Anchorage. So thank you for being with us, Jennie. We look forward to having you on our next show and learning about what you do with the Alaska Region Safety Outreach Program. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for supporting the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media. Please remember us when you apply for your permanent fund dividend with Pick, Click, and Give. Until next time, fly safely.